What if I told you the longest international border in the world is also one of the most broken? A border with missing pieces, floating pieces, pieces inside pieces. Hundreds of tiny holes that make the US-Canada line look less like a border and more like a glitch in reality. This is the weirdest border on Earth. And it wasn't created by enemies, wars, or invaders. It was created by mistakes. Let's start with the strangest one. Between Minnesota and Canada sits a tiny chunk of America called the Northwest Angle, the only part of the US north of the 49th parallel. It's so isolated that the only way to reach it by land is to drive into Canada first. A US town that you can't reach from the US. How did this happen? Because one mapmaker in the 1700s literally guessed where a river ended. He drew the map wrong, and that wrong line became the official border. By the time anyone realized it, the US already owned this random slice of land stuck at the top of the continent. But this is just the beginning. Scattered along the border are dozens of tiny parcels of land where the line jumps around houses, backyards, and sometimes even living room. A single building where half is in the US and half is in Canada. One footstep from one country to the other. Then there's Point Roberts, Washington. A piece of America cut off underneath Canada, not connected to the US at all. Residents can't even drive to the rest of their own country without going through border security twice. Why does this exist? Because when the border was drawn, the rule was simple. Everything south of the 49th parallel belongs to the US. Nobody checked the map carefully. Nobody noticed that the parallel would slice off the tip of a peninsula, creating a tiny American island attached to Canada. But the strangest part? Some enclaves exist because of drunken surveyors, bad compasses, and maps drawn before people actually explored the land. One of the early survey teams literally admitted they were not entirely sober and uncertain of the exact longitude. And that became the international border of two modern countries. Even today, the US and Canada spend millions maintaining a 20-foot wide borderline cut through forests. The border vista, just so the line remains visible. Because if the trees grow back, the border legally becomes uncertain again. Think about that. Two countries maintaining a giant grass strip across thousands of miles, all because of centuries-old mistakes that nobody wants to redraw. Why not fix it? Because every tiny adjustment would affect land ownership, laws, taxes, fishing rights, and national identity. Correcting the border would cause more problems than keeping the bizarre, glitchy one we already have. So today, the US-Canada border still has landlocked towns, unreachable American territory, weird enclaves, mismatched maps, and hundreds of tiny geographic accidents. All because a few men with bad maps and bad measurements didn't think their lines would last forever. But they did. And now, the most peaceful border in the world